Picture this. It's like the height of the Joseon dynasty. A king takes his final breath.
Okay.
And instantly, the royal court just goes into overdrive. His subjects rush into the throne room. They carefully take down this majestic, priceless painting that hung directly behind his throne. And get this, they set it on fire.
Which is pretty extreme.
Yeah, completely wild. Why would you burn it? Well, because they believed that specific painting wasn't just, nice decoration. It was the literal physical map of time itself. And with the king gone, the operating system of the entire nation basically needed a hard reboot.
It's such a striking historical image, and it really gets right to the heart of what we are unpacking today.
Exactly. Welcome to the Deep Dive, everyone. I'm your host, and with me is our resident expert.
Hey, everyone. It is great to be here.
So today, we are taking you on a journey to completely reframe how you understand time. Instead of seeing time as this terrifying ticking clock that's, constantly running out, we're going to explore it as the ultimate cosmic software.
Yeah, the core principles of time, yin-yang, and the five elements. It's a huge topic.
It is. And to do this, we have a really eclectic stack of sources. We've got this highly detailed philosophical transcript mapping out cosmic principles based on Daesoon Jinriho teachings.
Right, very deep philosophical stuff.
Yeah, and we also have an academic portal by researcher Choi Won-hookup, which is totally dedicated to the three-dimensional interpretation of yin-yang and the five elements. And then, and this is my favorite part, we have the metadata from a standard YouTube login page.
I love that we included that. The contrast there is highly intentional.
Oh, absolutely.
We are putting the ultimate modern mechanism for capturing your time, a digital login screen with timestamps and session limits, right up against ancient philosophies whose sole purpose is to actually liberate you from those exact constraints.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we get to the actual cosmic mechanics of time, we really have to talk about how we experience time right now. For most of us, looking at a clock feels like looking at a threat.
Oh, for sure. It's binary, tick-tock.
Right, one moment is just gone and the next arrives and you're just older.
That dread is actually entirely biological, and it's deeply embedded in us. The sources point out that for ordinary people, time is literally a source of terror because it is the direct agent of decay.
The Grim Reaper in a calendar.
Exactly. In Eastern philosophy, this biological trajectory is called Sangro Byongsa, which translates to birth, aging, illness, and death.
Yeah.
It's the reason you look in the mirror, see a gray hair, and feel a sudden spike of anxiety.
Right, but this fear isn't just vanity, is it? Our sources show how this anxiety bleeds heavily into traditional religious views, too.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Like if you look at texts like the Buddhist Agama Sutras, they portray time as this grueling, terrifying cycle of endless reincarnation, karma, and just various levels of suffering. I mean, it sounds like an inescapable trap.
Which brings us that YouTube login metadata from our source stack.
Yes, the login data.
If you look at the raw data of a digital session, you see timestamps, countdowns, session expiry limits. It perfectly captures our modern relationship with time. Everything is a linear countdown. You have a finite amount of time before your session dies.
And a finite amount of years before your biological session dies. We basically just view time as a punisher.
Right. But what's fascinating here is the massive paradigm shift presented in these texts. Time is not a punisher. It's actually the supreme mystery.
The supreme mystery.
Without time, the physical universe, heaven and earth, is just a useless brick. The transcript explicitly states that time itself is the Dao, the ultimate way of the universe.
All right, wait, I'm stuck on something here.
Sure.
If time is just this perfect natural operating system, like the texts claim, why does everyone, from ancient monks to modern tech workers, feel so oppressed by it? I mean, is it just a cosmic design flaw, or are we just using the software wrong?
The flaw is definitely not in the cosmic design. The flaw is in our understanding of the code. We feel oppressed because we are completely out of sync with how the software is actually written. We view time as a straight line moving toward a cliff. But the Tao is not a straight line. It is cyclical.
Okay, so if time is cyclical software, how is it actually coded? This naturally brings us to the mechanics of yin-yang and the five elements, right?
Yes, exactly.
How does that system actually operate?
Well, the sources break down the structure of cosmic time into 4 distinct repeating phases. It's called Sangjang Yemjang: birth, growth, harvesting, and storing.
Which perfectly mirrors the 4 seasons. Spring is birth, summer is growth, autumn is harvesting, and winter is storing or, resting.
Right. And this 4-phase cycle is the absolute heartbeat of yin-yang and the 5 elements. The theory basically argues that the universe breathes.
Breathes, like physically.
Energetically. It expands in the spring and summer through active yang energy, and it contracts in the autumn and winter through receptive yin energy. It's a constant, endless cycle of renewal, not a ticking time bomb.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Let's go back to that burning painting from the intro, the Urubangdo.
Yes.
For anyone listening who doesn't know, this is that iconic painting of the red sun, the white moon, and the five peaks. It was placed exclusively behind the Joseon kings.
The ultimate Eastern symbol of yin-yang and the five elements.
Right. But I have a huge problem with this visual. A painting is, by definition, static. The sun and moon are just frozen on the canvas. How can a static image possibly capture this dynamic, non-stop breathing cycle of time?
That is a great question. People look at the sky, they see the sun moving, and they naturally assume the physical movement of the sun creates time.
Right, because the sun dictates the day.
But the philosophy discussed in our transcript argues the exact opposite. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the painting isn't a photograph of the physical sun or moon. It represents the invisible law that commands them to move.
Wait, the invisible law?
Yes. In the text, this is called One Hyong Jom. It's the hidden cosmic principle that forces the sun to rise, forces the moon to set, and forces the seasons to change.
Oh, wow. So the software of time literally grabs the physical planets and moves them?
Exactly. The painting is a map of that invisible code. It maps out the five elements not as static objects, but as phases of time. Wood is the explosive birth of spring. Fire is the peak growth of summer. Metal is the sharp harvest of autumn. Water is the quiet storage of winter. And Earth is the center, keeping it all balanced.
So time isn't a byproduct of the planets orbiting. The planets orbit because the software of time is actively commanding them to. That completely flips the script. But, it leads to a really fascinating question. If the universe is running this four-season software, it makes you wonder, are we, as humans, running that exact same code inside our bodies?
And historically, Eastern medicine suggests we absolutely are.
Yeah, our sources had a brilliant comparison between Eastern and Western anatomy to illustrate this.
They really did. If you look at historical Western medical drawings, they almost always depict the body from the front. The focus is entirely on dead anatomy dissection.
Right, treating muscles and organs like isolated mechanical parts, like a car engine that just wears out.
Exactly, a machine that breaks. But if you look at traditional Eastern medical drawings, like those famous works by the legendary physician Hyo Jun, they depict the body from the side profile.
Which is such a weird choice until you realize why they did it.
Right. They did it because they were drawing a living, breathing organism responding to its environment. The drawings emphasize flaring nostrils, taking in breath, the active flow of energy, or qi, moving through the meridians. They're mapping a garden that needs seasonal tending, not just, physical meat.
Yeah, the text has this phenomenal analogy for how the body works as a literal time machine. It says, you can think of the human brain as a power plant.
Mm-hmm.
The 5 viscera, your major internal organs, are the factories. And the 24 solar terms of the year act as the electrical grid that distributes the energy from the power plant to the factories.
It's a beautiful metaphor.
Yeah.
But it's meant to be taken quite literally in terms of physiology.
Okay, hold on. The brain is a power plant, I get. The organs as factories, sure. But the seasons acting as the electrical grid.
Yeah.
That sounds incredibly poetic, but biologically, how on earth does a shift in the season actually route energy inside my physical body? Like, what is the mechanism there?
Well, think about what a season actually is. It's a massive shift in environmental temperature, atmospheric pressure, light. When cosmic time shifts into spring, the external energy becomes warm and expansive.
Right.
So your body, trying to stay synchronized with its environment, literally alters its internal blood flow, hormonal release, and metabolic rate to match that expansion.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the electrical grid is your nervous and meridian systems routing energy differently based on atmospheric cues. In winter, a time of storage, your body naturally routes energy deep inward to preserve heat, which heavily taxes the kidneys. You physically change based on the time of year.
So our physical body is literally hardwired into the Earth's seasonal time cycle. But, and this is where my mind got a bit blown, the sources say this goes even deeper than biology. It goes into morality.
Yes.
Those cosmic time principles, the invisible law of the 4 seasons, they perfectly map onto human moral virtues.
The virtues of benevolence, propriety, righteousness, and wisdom. Confucius famously taught these, right?
Right.
But the text argues he didn't just invent them as good social ideas to keep people polite. He was actually teaching the biological and cosmic attributes of time.
Break that down for me, because this sounds wild. Why would a season have a moral attribute? How does spring biologically map to, say, benevolence?
Well, spring is the season of birth. It's the cosmic phase where the universe nurtures new life, forces seeds to sprout.
Okay, yeah.
Benevolence is the human behavioral equivalent of that exact same energy.
Hmm.
When you act with benevolence, you're nurturing others, showing compassion, fostering growth. You're literally embodying the energy of spring.
And summer.
Summer is peak growth, radiating outward. That maps to propriety, the clear, visible rules of respect that allow society to function without burning down in chaos.
Oh, wow. Okay, what about autumn?
Autumn is the harvest. It's sharp, cool, decisive.
Yeah.
You have to cut the wheat and let the dead leaves fall. This naturally maps to righteousness, the ability to make sharp, just decisions, to cut away what is corrupt.
And then winter, obviously, is the season of storage and stillness.
Right, which maps to wisdom. It's when you retreat inward, reflect, and store knowledge for the next cycle.
So being a moral person isn't just about following polite societal rules so everyone gets along. It's actually about keeping your internal biological clock synchronized with the universe's time zones.
Exactly.
But if that's true, does acting immorally physically disrupt our internal electrical grid? Like, if I am lacking benevolence, if I'm cruel and selfish, am I literally short-circuiting my own liver, the organ tied to spring?
According to the core principles of yin-yang and the 5 elements, yes, absolutely. Immorality is a literal desynchronization from the universe's operating system.
That is wild.
Think about it. If you act with cruelty instead of benevolence, you are injecting winter's freezing, contracting energy right into the middle of your biological spring. You introduce a bug into your own software.
Oh, man.
This blocks the natural flow of qi, causes physical illness, and ultimately accelerates that terrifying Sang-Ro-Bion, saging, and death. Bad behavior is basically a biological DDoS attack on your own organs.
That is incredibly profound. But it brings us to a huge point in this deep dive. If humans are built to perfectly align with this cosmic time code, what is the ultimate goal of all this studying?
Right.
Because the sources say it isn't just to be a really well-behaved, perfectly healthy subject of time. The goal is to transcend being a mere subject and become its master. And to explain this, the texts introduce the symbol of the ox.
Ah, yes, the ox, in the 12 earthly branches, which is the Eastern system for mapping time and directions. The symbol of the ox, or chuk, specifically corresponds to the 12th month.
Ah.
It is the culmination of the year, the hinge point right before the cycle reboots.
Now, when most people think of an ox in Eastern philosophy, they think of the famous Buddhist Sammuto, the 10 ox-herding pictures.
Very popular imagery.
Right. You see a young boy searching for an ox, finding its tracks, wrestling with it, taming it, and finally riding it home playing a flute. Usually we're told the ox is just a metaphor for your wild mind, and taming it means achieving a peaceful state of zen.
That's the common interpretation, yeah. But our transcript reveals a much more specific hidden secret. The ox doesn't just represent the mind. The ox literally symbolizes time. And the herder, the boy, is humanity.
So the struggle in those pictures isn't just about meditating nicely, it's humanity wrestling with time itself.
Precisely. The texts argue that true liberation, which is called hatal, isn't just escaping worldly stress. True liberation means escaping the rigid, decaying constraints of linear time itself.
Escaping time completely.
Yes, it leads to dotong, or do mastery, a state where a person isn't a victim dragged along by the ticking clock, but someone who can freely wield the energy of time to resolve grievances.
So what does this all mean? I really need to ground this because when the sources talk about using time freely or immortality, my brain immediately goes to like sci-fi immortality.
Right, living forever.
Yeah. Does mastering time mean your cells literally stop aging and you live forever physically? Or does it mean radically changing our psychological relationship with time so we aren't victims of it? What does a person who has achieved this actually look like today?
This raises an important question. Let's ground it entirely in the real world. It is primarily about total psychological and spiritual emancipation. Think about a modern person who is a victim of the ticking clock. They're constantly frantic.
Always checking their phone.
Right. Panicking over arbitrary deadlines, fearing getting older, trying to force extreme productivity even when they're physically exhausted. Yeah. They're constantly fighting the current.
I mean, that sounds exactly like me on a Tuesday.
Now, contrast that with someone who has achieved synchronicity with that Sangyang-Yumjang cycle, the 4 phases of cosmic time. They don't fight the clock. They understand that trying to be highly productive and expansive in their personal winter is as biologically foolish as trying to plant seeds in the snow in December.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
When you realize that you are not separate from the operating system, that your virtues, your organs, and the seasons are one unified code, the fear of the ticking clock just evaporates. You don't fear time passing because you are the cycle of time. The mastery is in flowing with the mechanism perfectly, rather than fighting it.
So to bring this all together for you, time is not just a countdown to aging that you need to be terrified of. It's not a punisher. It is the majestic, active operating system of the entire universe, beautifully coded in the core principles of yin-yang and the 5 elements.
And that exact same code is perfectly mirrored inside your physical body, routing energy through your organs, and mirrored in your daily moral virtues.
Absorbing this perspective can really shift your daily reality. It can take that constant crushing modern anxiety about, running out of time and transform it into a peaceful acceptance of nature's rolling rhythm.
Absolutely.
Which brings us to a final lingering thought for you to chew on today. We talked about how the true cosmic nature of time is a perfectly balanced cyclical rhythm of birth, growth, harvest, and rest. But look at our modern lives. Think back to that YouTube login metadata from our source stack.
Right, the digital timestamps.
We live by rigid, linear, nonstop digital calendars. Algorithms that demand constant growth, constant output, and constant engagement 365 days a year with zero regard for the season. So, if our biology and our universe are fundamentally cyclical, requiring a winter of rest for every summer of growth, how much of our modern exhaustion and burnout comes purely from trying to force our organic lives into these linear digital boxes?
That's a great point.
Are we suffering simply because we are trying to force a cyclical, breathing universe into a straight, unbending line? Something to think about the next time you look at a ticking clock and wonder if it's counting down or just waiting for you to sync up?